Good evening and welcome to the Monday, October 14th Administrative Public Works Committee. My name is Alderman Braithwaite. We have a quorum. Is there a motion to approve the September 23rd, 2019 minutes?
Move approval.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Seeing no questions or comments, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries. We have two speakers signed up for public comments. Ms. Carla Sutton. Where are you, Mr. Sutton? Followed by Mike Basilko. 3 minutes, sir.
Good evening. There are three items I would like to suggest that you approve that are up for action. A12 for the purchase of trees for Suburban Tree Consortium for fall planting. A14 contract awards with Rath, Rafts, and Johnson & Gate for the Fleetwood Jordan Gym floor investigation project, and A17 change order number 1 with Bodala LCC Central Rug and Carpet for the contract for the Fleetwood Jordan interior renovations. Anything that would expedite the construction work so we could get back to our facility would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Basilko.
Mike Vasilko, 2728 Reese. It seems like we're on a spending spree just before the new budget kicks in. I'm hoping we can rather tighten the spending so we don't have to raise property taxes 10.9%. I attended Reclaim Evanston's meeting last night, heard Alderman Ruth Simmons speak very eloquently about her efforts to seek $1 million a year for 10 years for funding reparations. Frankly, I don't think that's enough to make a difference. The fact is that if the city didn't waste so much money, such as Robert Crown, at least $20 million, lawsuits for a park, at least $8 million, millions of dollars of lawsuits for staff, millions of dollars for consultants and change orders for consultants and contractors. If we didn't do all of that, the city could afford to spend tens of millions of dollars a year on reparations, affordable housing, and real livability programs to address all of Evanston residents equally. It's the tens of millions of dollars of waste each year by this council and by the previous city manager, and those are the people that need to be held accountable. Alderman Ruth Simmons is probably the exception in that group. Let's get Evanston's white 1% to pay the tens of millions of dollars that they promised for Robert Crown and give the extra bond money to Alderman Ruth Simmons' reparations fund. Why are we spending or why are we planning to award to one bidder for chess camps at Chandler Newbigger? It's a good program, but we only got one bid. Why do we have to keep spending money on vehicles? There's another $96,000 truck on the agenda for your approval. And yet you could repair trucks for $22,000. You could repair 4 to 5 trucks for the same cost as a new truck. I think you should hold items A9, 10, 11, 15, and 16, totaling about $620,000 related to Robert Crown. The city can't afford this building, and there's no plan that I've seen to pay for it other than raising taxes on Evanston citizens. These extra features could have been reconsidered when the city decided to forego solar panels and only rough in for solar panels, which would have been a green program that you actually—
15 seconds, Mike.
We should not be building our budget on the hopes for new revenue from higher real estate taxes or marijuana sales, which it seems our CEO is planning to do. Look for efficiencies, avoid wasteful spending, and cut property taxes. Don't raise them. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. That's all our speakers for public comment. We have the consent calendar. Alderman Fleming, would you like to take item A1 and A2, please?
Madam Chair, Mr. Chair, I move A1 for action. It's payroll dated September 2nd through September 5th, 2019, in the amount of $2,766,427.14, as well as payroll dated September 16th through September 29th, 2019, $2,768,963.58, as well as A2, which is the bills list dated October 15, 2019, credit card transactions for the period ending August 26, the bills list for October 15, 2019 is $9,013,418.56, and then the credit card transactions for the period ending August 26, 2019, $191,132.89. Those are for action. Move approval.
I have a question.
Okay, just a second for discussion.
Second,
It's been properly moved and seconded. Alderman Rainey.
yes, on page 9, the Affordable Housing Fund, expenditures for the Orrington Hotel stays. The questions were relating to why are we putting people up at the Orrington Hotel? Well, we put them up in emergencies. So I asked I don't know if other people asked, but what were the emergencies? Well, a domestic violence situation, of course, we wanted to take care of that. The other was a sexual assault. We have a contract with the Y where they guarantee us two beds any night. We pay them $12,500 per month for this accommodation. Why weren't they paying for these beds? I'm very concerned about that. And if they couldn't pay for those beds, are they going to pay us back? Maybe they're going to pay us back.
Good day, members of the committee. I'm Ogbo, Interim Director, Health and Human Services Department. Yes, in their contract, they're supposed to provide us with 2 beds. In this case, they didn't have any available beds that night. And the victim, one of the victims actually, was transported to a homeless shelter in Chicago. So I was the one who made that call to bring that individual to Evanston at one of our hotels until we were able to secure a more permanent, so to speak, accommodation for them.
Right, I think you did exactly the right thing. I'm not objecting.
Yeah.
Absolutely, she should not have gone to a homeless shelter in Chicago. She should have gone to a place in Evanston because that's what we provide for. But I don't see why, if we're paying $12,500 and there was no bed there, were any of our referrals in any of those beds at the shelter at this time?
Not to my knowledge. They didn't
All right.
provide that
They need
information.
to-
I have a
They need to
question.
reimburse us.
Yeah, I have another question.
But wait, but I'm
Okay.
not finished.
I'm sorry, I thought you were done.
I am, do
Okay,
you hear
well
me?
then,
Do you hear me
why are you
jabbering?
making up? You are
I'm jabbering.
Yes, I do hear
Yes,
that.
so wait till I'm finished jabbering. So we have, I don't know how much was spent on these 2 people, because I think there were three situations here. We need to be reimbursed, I think. And if we shouldn't be reimbursed, I'd like to know why. If we already had people in those 2 beds, then, okay, I get it. We overdid it, and we should pay for people outside of those 2 beds, because our agreement was 2 beds, we pay $12,500, that includes 2 beds. If they were taken up by our people, okay, they
All right.
were overbooked, but if not, then they need to reimburse us.
Okay, I will look into that further
Yeah.
and give you a report on that.
All right.
Okay.
We have to pay the Orrington. I don't want to stiff the Orrington. We're good customers there, so, but I'd like to get reimbursed. All right.
All right, so my question has
Fleming.
more to do with the 2 beds. And I know you mentioned earlier that you did not think the 2 beds were maybe used by residents we had sent over. So I'm concerned about that because we do pay for the 2 beds, and it was my understanding in that contract that they would always be available until we sent someone over via victim services or however we sent someone over. So I'm more concerned that, minus the reimbursement, we're paying for something that is not available. So and we've been in this contract maybe less than 6 months or so. So if you can give us a report on how many times the 2 beds that we're paying for are actually occupied by someone that we're sending over, and if they are occupied by other Evanston, if they're occupied by someone else, what's the process for them letting us know so that we don't end up with a situation like this where, someone has been traumatized and then is sent to a homeless shelter?
Absolutely, I can get you that information. And they did eventually occupy these individuals at their facility. They gave them a room in this regard. So I can look up that information and provide that to you. But like you stated, it is in the contract that they provide us with 2 emergency beds, and I'll look into that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Alderman Fleming, did you have a follow-up question?
I have a question about a different item on the bills list.
Okay.
So it's also from the Affordable Housing Funds, but it was the contract with Millennium Consulting. I just wanted a little more information about that. It says that this is their first payment. I'd like to kind of know how many sessions they're doing and some more details. So,
Good evening, Chair Braithwaite, members of the committee, Deputy City Manager Richardson. Millennia Consulting has been working with the steering committee since August, and we're in the process of working out the community outreach with their guidance and facilitation. We expect that their work will continue into the first quarter of next year. We're working on individual one-on-one interviews that will be done primarily by the steering committee, but with support from the Millennia consultants. Also, small group study, almost like little focus groups about housing needs. And then ultimately, we're going to be putting together one or more large group meetings to engage more of the community.
okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing no further lights for comment, all those in favor of passing item A1, A2, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We'll now jump into the consent agenda. I'd like to move item A6, which is contract award the Fambro, excuse me? Pardon me. A5, contract to award the Fambro Management LLC for the City of Evanston chess camps at the Chandler Newberger Center. Items A6 is the approval of the special events Vintage Garage Chicago Evanston edition, and that's going to be on the 5th floor of the Maple Garage Sunday, May 17th, July 19th, and September 13th of 2020. I'd also like to move item A7, the approval of the purchase of the replacement asphalt truck from Curry Motors fleet. That's going to be in the dollar amount of $96,864. I'd also like to move item A9 is sole source purchase for Dell server, storage, and visualization software for the Robert Crown Community Center, ICE Complex, and Library. The total cost of that is going to be $54,895.29. I'd also like to move item A10 for action, which is approval of sole source purchase for computer hardware from Dell Computer Corp. for the Robert Crown Community Center, ICE Complex, and Library. That's going to be in the total dollar amount of $20,232.82. I'd also like to move item A11, approval of the purchase of the Cisco network infrastructure appliances licensing and support for the Robert Crown Community Center and ICE Complex, and that's in the dollar amount of $92,565.27. I'd also like to move item A12, approval of purchase of trees for the Suburban Tree Consortium in the fall planting. That's going to be in the dollar amount of $33,420.20. Also, item A13, contract award with Chemly.
Can you pull that off, please?
Yep, at the request of Alderman Fleming. I'd like to move item A15, contract award for board space for the purchase of furnitures, fixtures, and equipment for the Robert Crown Community Center Ice Complex, and that's going to be in the dollar amount of $1,093,117.17 for action. Item A16 is change order 1 with Bully and Andrews for the construction manager services at the Robert Crown Community Center Ice Complex. That's going to be in the, I don't see a dollar amount. Am I missing a dollar amount for that? Oh, it just increases the time. Got it. Thank you very much. 32 calendar days. Item 18 is a change order number 1 with Schroeder and Schroeder, Inc. For 2019 alley improvements, contract B, and 29 with CBG Park Improvement. That's going to be in the dollar amount of $41,800. Item A19 is Resolution 51-R, authorizing the city manager to execute an intergovernmental agreement with the Evanston Skokie District Number 65 cost share for the broadcast operations specialist to broadcast meetings for both public bodies. And then item A20 is Resolution 95R19, authorizing the city manager to enter into 12-month lease agreement with the apartment located at 1223 Simpson. Item A12 is the approval of the purchase of trees for the suburban tree. Oh, I did that one already. All right. How about I go to the other side? Trying to make up time. Thank you. 21 is ordinance 100-0-19, authorizing the city to borrow funds from the Illinois Environmental Protection Agency Water Pollution Control Loan Program. And that is going to be in the dollar amount of $1,700. The debt service will pay $1,700,000. That debt service will be paid by the sewer fund. Ordinance item A22 is ordinance 120-19, amending Title 10, Chapter 11, Section 12, Schedule X2, 12B, parking zone, adding paid parking to the Greenwood Street between Chicago Avenue and Sherman Avenue. This is for introduction. Item A23, ordinance 113-0-19, amending the Title 10, Chapter 11, Section 12. I want to hold that off at the request of Alderman Suffredin. Item A24, we're good with that. Ordinance 116-0-19, amending the Title 10, Chapter 11, Section 12, Schedule 12A, parking zones, adding a paid parking to Sherman Avenue. That's also for introduction. Then item A26 is ordinance 130-0-19, increasing the number of Class D liquor license for the Kimono Cuisine, Inc., doing business as Kokomo. It's 1639 Orrington. That's also for introduction. That's it. Yeah. Item A27 is ordinance 131-0-19, increasing the number of liquor licenses for Zippa. Yeah, I'm going to butcher that. I'll just say Zensley. And that's one's on 1813 Dempster Street. That's also for introduction. Item A28 is ordinance 132-0-19, increasing the number of liquor licenses for Gil Lassie LLC. That's going to be the Hearth Restaurant on 1625 Hinman. That's also for intro. And then ordinance 133-0-19, increasing the number of Class D liquor licenses for Sea Ranch, Inc. That's the Sea Ranch Sushi Restaurant on 519 Dempster. That's also for intro. Are any of those owners here today, just out of curiosity, that I just read? Seeing no hands, none of these are time sensitive? All right, we'll keep going. A31, ordinance 96-0-19, amending the City Code Section 4-2-2 to update the gender-neutral bathroom requirements. That's also for introduction. These are your items for consideration.
Move approval.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We're going to go back and grab the last two. The first one, Alderman Fleming, would you like to read item A13?
Yeah, this is contract award with Keenly and Horn and Associates provide Phase 1 engineering services for the Green Bay Road Corridor Improvement Project. Staff recommends we authorize manager to execute a contract to provide Phase 1 engineering services for Green Bay Road Corridor Improvement Project in the amount of $327,641. This is for action.
Is there a second?
Second.
Yes, so
It's been moved and seconded. Alderman Fleming.
my question really is not so much about the project, but about its selection. So it says the project was not originally budgeted for fiscal year 2019, but funding is available from the delay of the Central Street Bridge project. So my question is, why was this project chosen with a surplus of funding? Do we have, a list of projects and this one was next up, or why did we choose this one to use as opposed to other projects around the city?
You have Sat coming to the mic.
Good evening,
Being, sir.
Alderman Braithwaite and members of the committee, and Mr. Richardson. Alderman Fleming, this project was awarded as TP funding in 2014. And when we did the Emerson Ridge Green Bay, we had to transfer the funds because there is a shortage for the whole project. So this is a good project which was already qualified once, and we have the call for projects next year. So this is a better candidate because we dropped this section earlier.
Okay, thank you.
Seeing no further lights for discussion, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion A13 passes. The next item, Alderman Suffredin, want to take that?
Item A23 is ordinance 113-019, amending Title 10, Chapter 11, Section 12, Schedule 7B, parking zones. Staff and Transportation Parking Committee recommend, pursuant to the request of Alderman Nguyen, City Council adoption of ordinance 113-019, amending City Code Section 10, 11, 12, 7B, parking zones, adding paid parking South Boulevard from Chicago Avenue East to the driveway of 516 South Boulevard, approximately 4 or 5 spaces for introduction.
Good evening, Deputy City Manager.
We need someone to second it for discussion.
No, we're,
I just need someone to second.
oh, I'm sorry, second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Alderman Suffredin,
Sure.
followed by Alderman Fleming, if you have a comment.
Yeah, I just want to confirm, or sorry,
Good evening, members of the committee.
we had an email conversation, or exchange. There are 49 available spaces in Lot 1 that's on this block, right?
That's correct.
And so that would be an available alternative for this business owner if you wanted to have client or employee parking, would be to lease spaces from the city of Evanston.
If he wanted at least monthly permits, yes, that would be an option.
Okay, there's no reason why he couldn't do that. Then why did we decide to pursue creating 4 metered spaces in front of his business?
This was requested by Alderman Nguyen, and she felt that Lot 1 is slated for future development, and she didn't want to add any metered parking spaces in the lot at the time.
Okay, but they wouldn't have to be metered. He could just rent them on a month-to-month basis, and we could revisit it if we went forward with the development of the lot, correct?
That's correct, but what we're proposing for South Boulevard is to be metered spaces, not monthly permitted spaces. So what's available in Lot 1 is only monthly spaces.
Right, but I mean, what I'm saying is, if this guy's concern is lack of parking, he can rent spaces on a monthly basis in that lot, and then if that lot goes away, we could go back and explore putting metered spaces in front of his business and solving a problem that we would have created by developing that lot for affordable housing or whatever purpose we developed it for.
That could be an option, or adding metered spaces in that lot as well, since we have availability.
All right, thanks. I don't think we should be adding metered spaces for the benefit of one business when there are 49 available spaces for lease on that block. Thank you, Mike. I appreciate it.
Hold on 1 second. Alderman Fleming.
Yeah, so my question has less to do with the parking lot, but you and I have been talking about this with metered spaces around the transit so that the commuters are paying for their parking and not taking it off residential. So what is the parking currently on South Boulevard and on Chicago Avenue? So Chicago on South Boulevard going north. Are there any restrictions?
No, at Chicago Avenue north of South Boulevard, there isn't any restrictions on the east side of the roadway. On South Boulevard, on the north and south side of the road, east of Chicago Avenue, for the 1 block, there is no restrictions there as well.
And do you know why that is, particularly on South Boulevard?
No, that's an area that's been like that for many years, and we haven't looked to change it yet.
Okay. So my concern is, as I've talked to you about putting in the meters over on Madison because we know commuters are parking there all day for free and we're trying to have turnover and all that. this street is even closer to South Boulevard than Madison is to Main Street. So we're trying to, and I've talked a lot to you about uniformity. So if we're charging one block that's a block from the train for people to park, obviously particularly on Madison, people who live in apartment buildings aren't going to have overflow parking. I imagine that's the same thing that we have commuters parking on South Boulevard and Chicago and crossing the street to get to the South Boulevard train and parking all day for free. So I would like us to look at making those uniform to what we are doing around the city, around other transit stops. So if we are putting in meters, I mean, again, I don't necessarily agree with putting in meters for one business owner, but I think if we're putting in meters around transit, then we need to consider these two streets that are very close to transit to also have the 12-hour meters or 8-hour meters or whatever it is. I mean, I don't know why, again, going back to Madison, which is in my ward, we're putting meters in there, but these blocks are even closer and they have no meters.
It's definitely something we can consider. We have been surveying all the areas from downtown heading south. So, we've added some blocks on Greenwood tonight. We've added some blocks on Madison, 600 block of Madison. We've done some changes on 1100 Chicago Avenue. We've done some other changes to 12-hour expansion on 600 Chicago Avenue. So it is something that's on our radar. We are looking to do implementation soon with expanding.
And I understand for Chicago Avenue, we have more condos, so maybe that's one of the things we go residential, so you can't park, as we do.
And maybe
over-
that's something we can tie in together with meter and EVS district or something like that to
Yeah.
allow those residents to park for free.
Yeah, please do. I think we should just treat everybody who lives near transit the same.
Alderman Rainey.
So right now, someone could drive up from, let's say, Birchwood in Chicago to take the train at South Boulevard and leave their car at this location all day.
That's correct.
Yeah, that's not a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it isn't really just for this business. I mean, it's really, we don't want that. I'm not crazy about meters, but it would solve a problem.
This is for introduction, so what's your pleasure?
It's
Alderman
been moved and
Simmons, I'm
seconded.
sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was trying that too. Alderman Fleming, I want to be clear on what's happening on Madison and how, so I want to make sure that there's equity in this.
Yeah, so in Madison, it's 2 blocks or so from Main Street, and so there's no restrictions like this street. So we moved to put in 12-hour meters so that commuters, if they're parking there, are paying 50 cents an hour instead of just parking for free, and then that takes up space from residential. So it's across from Reba Place Church. And I had long conversations about Michael about, I don't love it, but if it's an issue that people are parking all day, then they should be paying and not just parking and jumping on the train. And it was our conversation that this was going to be the standard around every train stop, that either there's metered parking or there's some kind of parking that prevents people from just coming and parking all day. So like on Oakton and other streets, you can't park, it's EVS or whatever, so you park after 10 o'clock or something
That's
like
right.
that. But now just right across the street on Chicago Avenue, it's a free-for-all.
Right.
I can go and park all day. I'm not paying anything. There's no tickets, nothing. But if you cross, west of Chicago Avenue now, it's either metered or residential restrictions. So in looking at this and driving by there myself today and realizing that, we're not treating each side of the railroad tracks the same.
So we didn't take action on that yet on Madison? It's a
The Madison is done.
It's done, okay.
And I've talked to residents about it. I mean, it is a commercial space. I think, I'll continue to revisit it. But I would like us, if we're moving forward with this, to survey that whole area or, make that block the same as other blocks.
That's fine. We could definitely look into it and make recommendations moving forward.
Yes, I would ask that we hold this until we get a more complete understanding of what we're doing next to transit.
That's fine.
So,
All I need is one more. It's held.
so wait. So by holding this, we do nothing and people continue to park there for free, right?
That's correct.
Yeah, I don't like that.
Well,
But right now,
How do
this
we
is only
address-
making 4-hour parking?
4-hour parking.
I'd like to have Alderman Nguyen weigh in on this. She'll be here at the council meeting.
Pass along to council or hold it for more discussion?
we could, so I agree with Alderman Rainey that we should have some way that we are managing folks, using the space. But I definitely want to make sure that we are consistent across the city on how we're managing spaces that are near transit.
Agreed.
So how do we do that? Pass it on and discuss it further?
Yes, and then if you don't like what Alderman Nguyen wants to do there, then we deal with it. But I don't think we should restrict Alderman, I don't think we should cut Alderman Nguyen off at the knees here. And this is her proposal, and let's let her deal with it at the council meeting, and then we can argue your point there, which I think she'll accept.
Perfect. Okay. Can I also suggest that you all
Thank
reach
you.
out to Alderman Nguyen prior to the meeting, just so she has time to
Sure.
rethink it, so we can make whatever additions we need to prior to the meeting? Perfect. If you could just stay here, members of the committee, I just have a quick question for you. It's within the parking realm, but it's a different subject. So I recently received the email, I shared that with you, from a resident. I didn't know when we have our zone parking that, so the complaint was somebody who was handicapped wasn't able to get to the box, right? So the complaint was getting the distance to the box versus where her parking designation was. And my question is, how are we dealing with that? I mean, that's the first time I've heard about it, so it's the first time I'm thinking about it. Can you just offer a little bit of insight, and if it's a longer answer, then we can take care of it outside of the meeting?
Sure. Basically, we're following the recommendations that are set forth by the state of Illinois and the Secretary of State's office. And currently, there's only one disabled placard that is exempt from payment. That is the yellow and silver placard. So anyone bearing the yellow and silver placard that is issued that by the state of Illinois, we will exempt them from payment. Any other placard, red, green, blue, temporary placards, we are not exempt from payment, and we will enforce those.
So she would need to get a yellow designation from the state and whatever those requirements are.
Correct, because the woman had a temporary placard, and that is not exempt. So once she qualifies for an exempt placard, which is yellow and silver, then she won't have to pay those metered spaces.
Got it. Thank you for the explanation. All right.
Thank you.
Seeing no further lights for discussion, all those in favor of passing item A23 with the understanding you're going to reach out, someone's going to reach out to Alderman Nguyen, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Oh, I'm sorry. You got that? It was 4-1. Alderman Suffolk voting no. All right. We're on to items of consideration. Alderman Fleming, you want to start with item number A3?
A3 is the Amazon credit card activity pending, period ending August 26, 2019, in the amount of $2,885.63 for action.
Second.
It's been probably moved and seconded. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I abstain.
One abstention, thank you. You know what I meant. Alderman Suffolk. Alderman Rainey, item A4.
Yes. This is a single audit report. Staff recommends the City Council review and place on file the single audit report for the fiscal year ending December 31, 2018. I move we take that action.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. All those in favor, please signify by saying.
A quick question.
Alderman Fleming.
I'm sorry, just a quick question. Is this audit available for the public to look at like our other ones? And where would,
Yeah.
is it on
should
the
be
website?
online. Yep. On
It's not
page.
reading
Good
the
evening,
back.
Chairman and members of the committee. Yes, it is available on our website.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Tesh. All those in favor of passing item A4, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Alderman Sufferton, mind taking us through item A8?
Item A8 is approval of contract with Standard Equipment Company for emergency repairs to Vector truck number 954. Staff recommends City Council approve payment in the amount of $21,949.15 to Standard Equipment Company for emergency repairs previously performed on Vector truck 954. Vector 954 is used by the Public Service Bureau of the Public Works Agency specifically for sewer purposes and is critical to continue necessary operations throughout the city. Funding will be from the materials to maintain autos fleet fund with a budget of $1,050,000 and a year-to-date balance of $190,061.64. This is for action.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item A14, Alderman Simmons.
Thank you. A14, staff recommends City Council authorize the city manager to execute a single source contract for consulting services for the Fleetwood Jourdain Gym Floor investigation with Rath, and Johnson Incorporated in the amount of $26,600. Funding is available from the 2019 General Obligation Bond Facility Contingency, which has a 2019 budget of $384,000 with a remaining balance of $89,396. This is for action.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Question by Alderman Sufferton, followed by Alderman Simmons.
I guess this is a question for Laura Biggs or Dave Stoneback. Hey, Laura. Thanks. Since the memo written to Shane says that they believe this is something recently accelerated by something, is it possible there'll be a contractor or somebody held accountable depending on what the investigation reveals?
Members of the committee, City Manager, Deputy City Manager Richardson. It is possible, but that is not necessarily what we think is happening. It's just not entirely clear where this water is coming from, but it seems to be from a more natural source that's somehow working its way into the building.
Okay, but I mean, the report that'll be prepared would include evidence of anything that would be actionable if it is the result of poor construction or somebody's neglect?
Yes.
Okay. Then I also have a question that's more of a Lawrence Hemingway question. I don't know if he's still here. He was here.
I think director's in the automatic library. Oh, there he is.
Sorry. Sorry, Lawrence. You were there a second ago. What's the total revenue that we generate from renting out the gym at Fleetwood Jourdain? Do you know off the top of your head?
Good evening, committee, members of council. I don't know off the top of my head Fleetwood's overall budget. It's one budget, complete budget, and so I would have to go and do the investigations of what's off the gym versus summer camp, et cetera.
Okay.
So it's not something I don't know off the top.
Okay, so you don't know what having the gym down has cost us, or would cost us.
I mean, it's costing us because we can't do any rentals. I mean, the building, we're still programming the building, using the room, the gym as kind of a multi-purpose gym, so that we have a room to put kids in for after school and that kind of thing, but there's no rentals going on at the time.
Okay. Yeah, if you could, I'll talk to you after the meeting. We can figure out, if you could help me figure out how much we're making renting that. Would be
Sure.
Great, thank you.
All right.
Seeing no further lights for
I have a
discussion.
light.
Oh, pardon me?
That's okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, thank you. I just want to ask that we support this. It has canceled FAM for the season in this location. They've had to find alternative options, as well as community roller skating and other important programming. And our anchor tenants, FAM being one of them, is pretty significant. I think they serve like 1,500 kids for the year. So if we could approve this so that we can move forward, I understand that this has been a long-term issue, and now is a great time to address it on a more permanent solution.
Thank you. Alderman Sufferton.
Lawrence, do you know how much FAM pays for their rental of the gym?
I can submit that to you. Let me
Okay.
get it and I'll send it.
Thank you.
All right. Seeing no other lights for discussion. All those in favor of passing item A14, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Alderman Fleming, item A17.
A17 is change order number 1 with Bodila LLC doing business as Central Rug and Carpet for the contract for the Fleetwood Jourdain interior renovation. Staff recommends the council authorize city manager to execute this change order number 1 in the amount of $52,349. This will increase the overall contract amount from $599,000 to $651,349. There's no time extension associated with the change order. Funding will be provided from the Capital Improvement Fund 2019 General Obligation Bonds. This change order will exceed the project budget, but funding is available from saving in the execution of the Lovelace Tennis Court Rehabilitation Project. This is for action.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Seeing no lights for discussion, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item A25, Alderman Rainey.
The Transportation and Parking Committee, pursuant to the request of aldermen and small business owners, recommend the council adopt ordinance 28019, amending the code parking in predominantly residential areas to allow for businesses in the main Dempster Mile Business District to receive a small business parking permit. The permit would allow for the licensee of a small business to park one vehicle in a residential parking district. Evanston vehicle sticker, which used to be a sticker, E1, C, or F at the rate of $50 a month. Staff will evaluate the permit in 6 months to determine next steps. This is for introduction.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Alderman Suffredin?
Sure. Two things. One, when we have people who qualify for residential permits but don't have their vehicles registered in Evanston, do we require them to pay the equivalent of the wheel tax?
Yes.
Yes, we do.
Okay, but this does not have that requirement?
No, it does not.
Okay. I'd like us to consider amending it to have that requirement. And the second thing is,
Is that an amendment?
well, yeah, let me do my other one and then we can make my amendment. But the second thing is, did we look at the feasibility of doing, rather than have the affidavit and have one vehicle, just having each business get like a hang tag that they could distribute among employees so that if they have staff that needs to use it certain days of the week and staff that needs to use it other days of the week, they could use it interchangeably? Is that feasible?
No, it's not feasible because we are changing our platform to be digitally, so we will be monitoring the license plates of the vehicle and the person who's been authorized credentials.
Okay,
moving forward. So we will not have hang tags.
So it would just be one car per business, either the owner or their designated.
That is
person.
correct.
And if, I would like to make the amendment that we also require non-registered vehicles to pay the equivalent of the wheel tax before qualifying for this.
Second.
It's been proper, is that a edit?
Yeah, well, it would be the exact same thing, except if your vehicle is not registered in the city of Evanston, so you have not paid the wheel tax, you have to pay the equivalent of the wheel tax before you can pay the $50 a month or whatever we're going to charge.
That's your edit.
Yeah. I mean, you get what I'm saying, right?
Yeah, I understand that.
Okay. That's his motion. Is there a second?
You got a second from Alderman Rainey.
Okay, thank you. All those in favor on voting on the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Corporation, Victoria, you got that?
Yes.
We're good? All right,
Thank
can
you.
we now vote on the motion as amended? Is there a motion to, we'll move the motion as amended. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries with the edits. And can you have that marked up or someone so we can read it in?
Yeah, I mean, I just want it to be the same thing that we do for Northwestern students or people who have vehicles that aren't registered.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Item A30, Alderman Simmons, and then we have a brief presentation.
Yes. A30. Sure. Ordinance 92019, amending portions of City Code Title 10 to permit e-bikes and implement requirements for bike share companies operating in Evanston. The Transportation and Parking Committee and staff recommend adoption of Ordinance 92019, amending portions of the City Code Title 10 to permit low-speed electric bikes, e-bikes. Concurrently, staff recommends further amending portions of the City Code Title 10 to implement requirements for bike share companies operating bicycles, including e-bikes in Evanston, for introduction.
Good evening, members of the committee. To start, I'm going to focus on just low-speed electric bikes. There are a lot of questions that arise when you start talking about electric bikes, and so I wanted to address those before we begin. The pictures here display low-speed electric bikes and who is the most common users of them. So on the left, you'll see a commuter, and then on the right, you'll see a family. You may have even noticed these bikes around Evanston and not realized that they're already operating here. And so it's just an interesting fact. Yeah, thank you. There are 3 classes of e-bikes that are determined by the federal government. The class 1 is a pedal assist. It will not move unless you're pedaling it. It maxes out at 20 miles per hour. The next class is throttle driven that maxes out at 20 miles per hour. And the third class is also a pedal driven bike that maxes out at 28 miles per hour. Sometimes people hear these numbers and it's a little frightening because that seems very fast. But if you go to the next slide, so you have to keep in mind that this is the max speed, and most people are never maxing out on a bike. So just a regular bicycle, it can vary from about 10 miles per hour if you're a beginner to as much faster than 25 miles per hour and faster than 28 miles per hour depending on your skill level. And so just like a car, you're not driving at 100 miles per hour, you're not maxing out an electric bike, you're going at your comfort level. So if you're a beginner on an e-bike, you're going 10 miles per hour. If you're an intermediate, you're going about that level. And usually when you're with kids, or if you're an older adult, you're going at the level you would be at with that comfort. Okay. So this is regulated by the Consumer Safety Protection Act by at the federal level, and that's who's determined what these classes are and how they are defined. So an e-bike is not a motor vehicle according to the federal government. It is a bicycle, and if anything is going beyond what has been defined by the federal government, then that's considered a moped and a motor vehicle. Next slide. The state of Illinois passed in its vehicle code these classes of bikes to allow for them to operate at the municipal level. However, the state vehicle code allows the municipality to permit or prohibit. The city of Evanston already had on its books regulation to not allow e-bikes before they were even regulated at the state and so we're just looking to model what is at the state level of government for e-bikes. Next. And so why e-bikes? Again, if we go back to that first slide, it's to allow our commuters to have an easier trip. You can go longer distances now, to allow for families to have a single bike that they can all use rather than worrying about small children having separate bikes. It's the environmental focus. When you think about the Climate Action Resiliency Plan, it shifts people onto bikes that wouldn't normally ride them. And it also allows older adults to continue riding on a bike longer than they would otherwise. And then just for fun, of course, too. And so, so I'm looking for a recommendation to adopt the e-bike ordinances to allow them along on Evanston streets. And then also with that, recommending having a bike share company permit. Bike share company permits are shifting towards exclusively e-bikes. And so if we open up e-bikes in the city of Evanston, we want to make sure we have something on the books to be able to regulate from any bike share company trying to come in and distribute bikes without the city's regulation and permission.
Alderman Rainey, followed by Alderman Simmons.
Would we have both the non-motorized and the motorized bikes from the bike share companies, or just would they switch all to motorized bikes?
So right now, there's no proposal to change anything than what we have.
Are you seeing that in other cities, that they're going to only motorized bikes?
For the bike share companies, yes, because it's just a much nicer ride, and the market is stronger for electric bikes than it is for a regular bike. And so it allows more people to ride than would otherwise be able to.
Is it more lucrative for us?
There's more to come on bike share companies. Yeah.
And what about any conflict in the bike lanes? Or would the motorized bikes be out in the street? Would they sort of avoid the bike lanes?
So Class 1 and Class 2, because of their lower speeds, the state of Illinois recommends that they are allowed exactly where a regular bike is.
I know,
yeah.
but would people really stay in those lanes? And
It's all a matter of individual comfort, and so what I would anticipate is this would allow people to bike that maybe wouldn't normally bike, and they would usually stick to the bicycle lanes in that regard. It might mean that other people are upgrading their bike so that they can go longer distances, people who are already biking but maybe wouldn't bike as frequently. And so predominantly they would be in the bicycle lanes or where bikes are permitted. None of the bikes, according to the state of Illinois, are allowed to operate on sidewalks. So none of the e-bikes would be allowed to operate on sidewalks.
None. Thank you.
Alderman Simmons.
My question was answered.
All right. Okay. Are there any other comments for item A32? Ooh, pardon me, A30. Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, any opposed? Perfect.
Yep.
Item A32, Alderman Simmons. Thank you, Jessica.
Yes, A32. Ordinance 120-019, amending portions of the city code to correct hotel, motel, bed, and breakfast establishments tax due dates and late fees assessed. Staff recommends adoption of ordinance 120-019, amending portions of the city code to correct hotel, motel, bed, and breakfast establishments tax dates and late fees assessed to be monthly on the 20th of the subsequent month in which the taxable activity occurred, and standard 10% late fee per month. This will standardize this tax collection with all other home rule taxes. Staff requests suspension of the rules for introduction action by City Council today. It's for introduction action.
It's been properly moved and seconded by Alderman Fleming. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. We have one more item for discussion, folks. It's APW1. It's the crossing guard policy. Who's staff for that? Who's taking that? Not everybody. You gonna take this one?
Yeah, I'll take it. Hello.
Okay. Alderman Fleming.
Yeah, so I think, we talked about crossing guards we outsourced last year. If you look at the chart, it's clear that we have ETHS that's paying. They only have 2 crossing guards. Carroll Valley Middle or Montessori School is also paying, and then Erica Storley can update us. I think there's been some changes, but basically District 65, who has the most crossing guards, is not contributing to this cost here. Yeah. And while we all do want the kids to be safe, and the city has been paying this, I assume, since we got started, it is $500,000. And I asked staff if we could have a discussion about this and where we were with asking District 65 to maybe at least make 50% of the contribution. As we know, they get the majority of the tax bill. We are trying our best to not, just fee our residents to death here. But this is a substantial cost that I think it was worth us having a conversation about and giving some direction to staff.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Erica Storley, interim city manager. I just wanted to update you. We had tried to get some additional information about what some other communities were doing prior to the packet being released, but we weren't able to get it in time, but we do have it now. And so I did want to share the result of a survey that Kimberly did with some of the area communities in the Northwest Municipal Conference. So she sent out a request, and it came back that 5 cities split the cost with the school. So this is information not in the packet, and that's DeKalb, Lincolnwood, Oak Park, Buffalo Grove, and Elburn. So those are a 50-50 cost share municipality district. And then there were 2 cities that covered the cost completely, which is Brookfield and Woodridge. And those are the cities that we got responses back from since we sent out the information that you currently have.
Okay. And Alderman Fleming, did you research the history or city manager why we pay? Is there a explanation or something that can help me to understand why we pay?
When I asked City Manager Bobkowitz before, when we had this discussion about the outsourcing, I think his conversation was pretty much, this is just always what we've done.
Okay.
So there was no technical history that I got received.
Has any one of our staff had a conversation with whether it was the Dr. Gorn or any of the interns?
So this is an item that came up during last year's budget discussion as well. It's come up for a number of years. My understanding is the history is that the city has covered this for decades.
Sure.
But in previous years, there were perhaps not as many, and the cost was perhaps not as high. So it wasn't looked at as something until, the past 5-ish years.
Sure.
We did bring this up with Dr. Gorin last year. Of course, it was not met with a resounding, yes, of course, we'd like to pay for this. When can we start? It was we don't have a budget for it. It's something that we would have to take to our board, and, they would have to identify a way to fund it if we were to move to some sort of cost-sharing model.
Yeah. Can I make a suggestion, Alderman Flynn? We both sit on the school liaison. Let's have our staff add that as an agenda item for discussion. And then whoever the staff is you're working with, just inform them that there are some members of city council that are looking at them paying their fair share, or however you choose to word it.
Yeah, that's fine. I think last year there was some kind of payment that we were making that we no longer make. Was that correct? It was like $100,000.
Yeah, one of the budget balancing worksheet items from last year's budget was to sort of stop the practice of reimbursing the school districts for their utility tax. So that's a tax that we collect, or we get from the state, and then we remit back to the schools. I don't believe that was something that was approved, so I don't think that anything has changed in that regard.
Yeah, so I'm happy to put it on the agenda. I thought we have a budget coming up, that we needed to at least have a discussion about if people were thinking this was something we should move forward with, but I'm happy to just put on city school liaison and make the request that they meet us halfway on this cost.
Wherever you want to start.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Seeing no other items for discussion, are there any items for communication? Seeing none, before we motion to adjourn, the Planning and Development Committee meeting will start at, you guys can get it going by 7:15 sooner?
Definitely.
7:15? The Planning and Development meeting will start at 7:15 sharp. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.